back to our official YouTube channel of 360DigiTMG. Hope you are all doing well. So we're continuing our discussion on Gen AI, and we basically briefly discussed on a couple of prompt engineering techniques in the previous session. So we'll just pick up, maybe recap a little bit and pick up the left off prompt engineering techniques, right? So prompt engineering is nothing but giving a text input to the LLM, a large language model, and getting an output on the basis of the text that we have given. So an LLM can perform variety of tasks for you. It can summarize your text. It can answer your questions. It can give you an MCQ. It can, sort of start generating content on its own when you say something creative, right? So different kind of outputs you can get from an LLM. Okay, a large language model is nothing but a model which has been trained on vast data, right? Millions and billions of data, sequential words. And very high level concept of LLM is that, once you sort of train all these data with all these billion parameters, backend, what we learned, right? With the vector databases, how it works. So all these LLMs are going to basically sort of capture the input data that you've given in terms of words, and it will tokenize these words and find the semantic, based on the semantic search or similarity search, is going to identify the next relevant word. So this is how on an overall high level concept an LLM works. So this is a very powerful technique in order to enhance the performance and adaptability of the language models, which is prompt engineering, right? So we started off with a couple of examples how we can go through a simple prompt engineering. So we can just ask, specified question saying what is the prompt engineering in one line, and it's sort of giving us the output. So there are so many different ways of prompts we can use, different types of prompts that we can use. And based on the sort of large language model you are using, excuse me, this kind of prompts will vary, right? So previous session, we talked about different techniques of prompting: zero-shot prompting, one-shot prompting, how to do information retrieval, creative writing, how to expand a given context, right? How do you sort of summarize your content based on a specific focus? So if you're given heavy data to the LLM, how it is going to summarize it in the form of, a shorter content, basically, specifically focusing on a particular topic. Then template filling, prompt reframing, prompt combination, etc. We'll also look at a lot of other interesting prompts today, which is chain of thought, iterative prompting. How do you do interactive storytelling and role playing with this? How do we do implicit information injection, language translation with contextual nuance, then automatic reasoning and tool use, which is also called as ART. Least to most prompting, self-ask prompting, meta prompting, react, symbolic reasoning, PAL, iterative prompting, sequential prompting, self-consistence. There are so many more, right? Tree of thought. I can think of many other prompting techniques, graph of thought, etc. So a couple of examples that we have seen so far are probably zero-shot prompting. So the first one is zero-shot prompting, where you when you get a response without feeding any data to the LLM. So you're just asking a quick question, and it's giving you the answer, and without any sort of example that you feed in, right? So it will answer on its own. Then you have one-shot prompting, which is a little different from zero-shot prompting. So here what happens when you're asking a question, you also give an example. So the LLM knows exactly how to answer your question, right? So you're giving it a hypothetical example so that it understands your instructions clearly and answers your question accordingly. Then you also have information retrieval, where you ask a simple broad question. For example, what is AI? And it can go on explaining artificial intelligence up to any extent, right? So you can use it like a search engine also. This is very similar to how you use Google, right? Or any other search engine for that matter, Microsoft Bing or any other search engine, because your question is sort of, a broad question, it will also give you a broader answer and a lot more information. That is your information retrieval. Then you have creative writing, where you prompt the LLM to sort of create something new. You can ask it to create a poem, for example. We've seen here how you have asked an LLM to compose a short poem about full moon tonight. But you can sort of ask it to create a story or create a particular, you know, a song or something like that based on any other topic, right? Any topic which you like. So that would be creative writing. Then there is context expansion. So, well, as you are learning about prompt engineering, let's understand topic from the LLM. So context expansion could be trying to understand all these 5 questions in English, right? So who, what, where, when, and how. So last time I showed you, I opened ChatGPT and sort of demonstrated you an example where we were trying to understand who is the one who should learn a data science, what exactly is data science, where can you learn data science from, when is the best time to learn data science, why you should learn data science, and how you can go about learning data science. So we took a particular topic of data science and we sort of expanded the entire sort of in terms of question. We started questioning who, what, where, when, why, and how. So similarly, in this example, in the slide that they've shown here, they have taken a statement that exercise is good for your health, and they started sort of expanding with the each and every question on top of that, right? Then you also have content summarization with specific focus. So you sort of feed in a lot of data or a lot of content to the LLM, and you're saying that summarize this entire big article or big text based on this particular focus, while keeping your focus on so and so. So, for example, they've given right a summary of the website optimization post. So there was a post called as website optimization, and especially you're asking it to summarize, especially on the mobile optimization tactics. So it's probably one of the techniques or one of the tactics, and you're saying summarize only with respect to the specific topic. So that's why we say content summarization with specific focus on a particular topic, right? That could be your different kind of prompting. Then you also have a template filling where you're telling that, I need to fill a particular template. You're giving an example template first, and you're giving a clear instruction on how the template needs to be followed, what kind of inputs to be taken, and what the template should do. And post that, you're giving the information on how the template needs to be filled for different candidates or different employees or different customers, right? So that's also one of the things that we can do to quickly generate different forms, right? Instead of you filling out the form, manually for each and every customer or employee or student, you can do this very simply. Then we also have prompt reframing. You can reframe your prompt according to the need itself. So, for example, you have provided a prompt first time, and now you did not you did not actually get the required answer, or you're not happy with the kind of answer that you've received. So let's reframe the prompt. We try to sort of put it in a different wordings and probably get the best results of it, right? So, for example, here they've tried to ask a question: what are some ways to optimize a website for speed? And it has given you different ways what you can do. Instead, we want to be very specific and talk about techniques, right? So, in the second question, we're trying to reframe our prompt and saying that can you list exactly the techniques, right, to improve website loading at times. So sometimes website takes a longer time to load, and instead of talking about the speed of the website overall, here we are targeting on exactly this our pain problem, which is improving this website loading time. Okay. And we're asking it to list the exact techniques out. So that becomes your prompt reframing. Then obviously prompt combination. We can combine prompts to get a better answer. Like for an example, let's give the below prompt in the LLM. So can you explain differences between shared hosting versus and VPS hosting, and recommend which is better for a small e-commerce website? So this is one question, right? So we are trying to combine a couple of prompts here. So one input that I'm trying to say is, can you differentiate between shared hosting versus VPS hosting? I'm trying to understand the difference between two hostings. And at the same time, I want to understand which is going to work better for a small e-commerce website. So this is like including a lot of things in a single prompt. and making it crisp. So this can be a prompt combination. I think in the previous session, we have seen an example of how is data science different from AI, and whether you should learn data science or whether you should learn AI, right? Or difference between a data analyst and a data scientist. And like a couple of examples we've taken like that. This time around, let's start with a couple of more prompting techniques, right? So we're done with the recap. We learn a few couple of different prompting techniques. So first one is interactive storytelling and role playing, right? So so it's kind of similar to creative writing prompting. Here, basically, interactions happen with the user and the tool. User will give some emotions and inputs to the tool, and tool will generate the story with the help of the inputs provided by the user. So first, we are giving in some sort of user input, which is going to be creative of some sort. And then the LLM is going to pick up on that creative narrative and sort of start building its own story. So let's take an example of the below prompt that they've given here. They said, together, I would like to begin an exercise in collaborative storytelling. We'll be crafting a fantastic tale about a place where magic exists, but has long since been forgotten. Here is the protagonist and the story's ultimate objective. So you're trying to sort of draw a gist, overall gist of the story that you're trying to write, and you're mentioning the genre and things like that. So you're saying I'm trying to create a fantastical tale, so somewhat in a fantasy genre where we're talking about magic and magic has been forgotten. So we're trying to revive that emotion of magic, and you're trying to say that there is a protagonist and what kind of objective you want in the story. So you're saying that character Serafina, an apprentice librarian in the city of Eldoria, discovers a hidden chamber beneath the ancient library filled with forgotten relics of a magical era. The goal is to uncover the secrets of these artifacts and restore the magic to the world, which has fallen into chaos due to the rise of tyrannical sorcerer threatening to plunge the land into eternal darkness. So you've given a gist of the story, what kind of a tale you wanted to write, and the overall plot of the story. Now, based on your input, based on your creative input, the LLM is going to pick up and sort of build on the story and weave the story entirely, right? So with all the plots and twists and turns and going into the detailed information as of sort. So let's look at the output that ChatGPT is giving. So it says, once upon a time in the sprawling city of Eldoria, nestled between towering mountains and lush forests, there lived a young apprentice librarian named Serafina. Eldoria was once renowned for its deep connection with magic, but as the centuries passed, the knowledge of spells and enchantments faded away, becoming nothing more than ancient tales. So this is how it started. So it is picked up on the character of the protagonist, as well as the story, overall story, and all of that, and it started writing literally a very interactive storytelling. Now, we can also do language translation with contextual nuance. So this is also one of the prompting techniques that you can look at. Let's understand this concept with an example. For example, you want a translation, but on the basis of a context. So let's see an example prompt. Translate the below phrase from English to French, but keep in mind that the translation to take place on the context of an official restaurant business. So you're saying take the recipe and run with it. Right. So, here it can literally translate saying that take the recipe and run with it. So it can literally mean running. So you grab a recipe by your hand and you start running, right, physically. But that's not exactly what this English sentence means. So to pick up on that connotation or intonation of the prompt, that's the reason you're trying to sort of say that translate this by keeping in mind the fact that this is a sort of conversation happening in an official restaurant business. Okay, so you're getting the output saying prenez la requeta et donne louis, right? So what will be the literal translation? Literal translation is something else. Literal translation literally means take the recipe and run away with it, right? So this is something that you can see. So instead of as opposed to literal translation, which could mean different things, you can give it in a context. Like for example, same words in a particular language can mean multiple things, isn't it? One word can have multiple meanings, and when you change the context of the sentence, obviously meaning of that sentence will change. So that's something you're trying to combat here. Let's take an example. Okay, let's take an example saying, mm, let's try an example saying that translate the below sentence or below phrase um, in Turkish. In sorry, yeah, in Turkish, um, with the context that this is a conversation mm, between friends. Okay, between two friends or between friends. And the phrase that I would give is you look mm, you look bomb in that dress. So the bomb could mean anything, right? Or you look hot in that dress. So here hot literally doesn't mean hot, but we're trying to say that, your the sort of dressing sense you're trying to come and you're trying to compliment your friend, right? So let's look at this, how it is saying. So it is saying, oh, elbiseyle çok çekici görünüyorsun. Okay. So can you also give me, or I'll say now, can you give me the literal translation of the above phrase? Literal translation is o elbisede sıcak görüyorsun. So sıcak is probably sıcak actually means hot in Turkish. So we didn't want to say that you look hot, like in a hot way, right? Temperature hot. Instead, this sentence on the top is saying o elbiseyle çok çekici görünüyorsun. That means you look very attractive in this particular dress. So that's how it changes with the context. So you can use contextual prompting as well when you're doing a language translation. Then we also have sequential prompting. So with the proper guidance, we should give sequence of prompts, which will give a better results eventually. Example, if you're helping a child to ride a bike, instead of go, you should give, instead of one go, you should give a step-by-step procedure, right? Someone who's trying to learn a bike for the first time, or someone who's trying to drive a car for the first time, or someone who's learning swimming, right? So on and so forth. Now let's understand with a proper example. So you're saying write a poem about a beautiful day. LLM starts responding saying the sun is shining, the birds are singing, the flowers are blooming, the bees are buzzing. It's a beautiful day to be alive. So it's writing a poem about a beautiful day. But can you make the poem rhyme? Now you see how the LLM responds. It says the sun shines bright, the birds take flight, the flowers bloom, the bees zoom. It's a lovely day. Come and play. So it's sort of sounding more rhythmical, right? Much more like a poem rather than just a context. Then obviously self-consistency is one of the techniques. We will ask the generative AI to generate the response, which will be based on a context provided by me, so that it will be self-consistent. Here is the example. So the context says teachers conference, right? So the task is generate an inspiring speech. Okay. Instructions are the speech should be consistent with the information provided by the UGC and AICT, right? So there is a teachers conference taking place, and we need to generate an inspiring speech for that teachers conference. So we're trying to write a speech, and same way the speech should be very consistent with the information that is provided in UCG and AICT. So the prompt says generate an inspiring speech to the teachers that is consistent with the following official information, and you need to copy paste that official information. So the prompt formula is generate space, name of the text, what you're trying to generate, and that is consistent with so and so reference text, right? So that it will follow. Now, some very popular large language models that we know, right? They are a Chat GPT 3.4, GPT 4, 3.5 and 4. So both of these, GPT 3.4 and GPT 4, are by your OpenAI, sort of developed by OpenAI company. And GPT here stands for your generative pre-trained transformer. Then you also have Bard, which is Google Bard, now also called as Gemini. Then Llama. This is one of the most, again, very popular open source LLM again. Then you have Falcon, you have Cohere, you have Palm, again, PLM developed by Google itself, right? You also have different variants of PLM. You can have Palm Med, Palm Med 2, Palm 1, Palm 2. You have seen a lot of, we've seen a lot of versions that Google has come up with. Then you also have Claude V1, Mistral 7B, Zephyr, all of these are again your couple of them are open source LLMs. And let's look at a bit of an information about these two. So, as you know, Chat GPT, GPT is basically standing for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. And let's look at what is the full form of Bard, right? So Bard was just a basically it was just a simply name experimental name given by Google. It doesn't really have any you know full form to it. What about Llama? And Llama is basically large language model, Meta AI. So it's a family of large language models developed by Meta AI. These models are designed to be smaller and more efficient than other LLMs while still delivering impressive performance. What about Falcon? Falcon was developed again. Falcon also does not have any specific sort of full form, but it was also developed like Llama or BART. Okay, developed by Technology Innovation Institute in Abu Dhabi. Okay, this is also one of the large language models. Then we have Cohere, and then we also have a PALM, right? Again, Cohere was developed by, it's similar to other companies. It's similar to a large language model developed by other companies also, but mainly it's based on the focus on enterprise level NLP solutions, natural language processing solutions, especially to a specific data. PLM, Pathways Language Model. Again, it's a large language model developed by Google AI. Okay, a lot of capabilities of it. Okay, then we have Claude version 1, and then we also have Claude version 1, again, the first version of the large language model developed by Anthropic. It was basically released in March 2023. It was initially only available to a select group of users, while Claude 1 version 1 is demonstrated proficiency in various tasks like it had also a couple of limitations in areas like coding, math, reasoning compared to the later versions which have come. So you also have Claude version 2 that has come up now. Then we also have Mistral 7B and Zephyr. Mistral 7B, again, it's a large language model developed by Mistral AI. The company itself is Mistral AI. It's called a 7B because it was trained with 7 billion parameters. Okay, 7 billion parameters. So it's a smaller but a powerful AI. It has outperformed a lot of other models like Llama 2. Okay, Llama 2 13B and all that. And it's because it's open source, so it has a lot of potential to be used by most of the generative Gen AI data scientists. Then Zephyr, again, it's built on top of the Mistral 7B model. It is known for being hyper optimized for chat tasks, right? It's like a newer version of LLM. Newer version of your Mistral 7B is your Zephyr. Then these LLMs basically have some particular graphical user interface available, which can be usable by normal people also, because these are some open source large language models. There are a lot of paid ones also. These are open source, you can sort of pick up. And I believe ChatGPT 4.0 is 4.0 is again a paid version. Yeah, so these LLM models, they have some particular graphical user interface, different types of graphical user interface available. So whichever you find suitable for your sort of prompts, certain LLMs work well with coding, certain LLMs work with work well when you're trying to get creative answers out of the LLM, right? So for different purposes, one might be superior to the other, completely based on the applications. On the other hand, all these models are available as Python module 2, which can be used by developers and create fabulous applications. So you can take up these models in your particular code itself, which you're developing in your Python environment. So as I mentioned before, all the models is having they have their separate libraries. Like for GPT, you have OpenAI library. For Bard, again, you have Google Bard. Not quite sure if this still works because again, Google Bard is a failed experiment, right? We have moved on to Gemini. So need to have a look at that. Then PLM pathways large language models. Again, you have Generative AI. So this is pretty powerful, especially in the medical domain, healthcare domain. PLM2 has done a lot of promising work. So you can probably look for further developments in that area and that perspective. Then apart from these modules, we have some other modules too, like LangChain. Then you have transformers, semantic kernel, okay, different things. With these three libraries, we can call them models I mentioned in the previous slide. So using these particular libraries, LangChain and all this, you can call of your, you can, have a look at trying to use your Llama, Falcon, Cohere, Claude, Mistral and all this. Using these libraries, maybe you can experiment. For example, inside the semantic kernel, we have a library named OpenAI Chat Completion, by which we can, by that we can use a GPT model. Right. So usually, like when we talked about again, when we talked about the life cycle of Gen AI project itself, we said that we will, sort of estimate and compare whether to take an open source large language model and then build our data on it, like give contextual data and then build on it, or are we going to build a large language model from the scratch? So when you have open source large language models like this, you can sort of take these models and using your RAG technique, uh, you can sort of train these models on specific data, company specific data or product specific data for the particular application that you want to apply your LLM for, chatbot for. And based on that, you can take a call whether whether these open source LLMs are of help or not. So different prompt techniques, again, you can experiment with and come to a conclusion whether which prompt technique is working well for you. So yeah, these are the few, again, techniques: zero shot prompting, one shot prompting. You can go ahead and experiment more. You can look for a couple of more automatic reasoning and tool use. You can look at least to most prompting techniques, self-ask prompting techniques, meta prompting techniques, React. Then you also have symbolic reasoning and PL. We also have, iterative prompting. Sequential prompting is something we looked at. Self-consistency, right? How self-ask prompting is different from self-consistency. Then here you have a lot of chain of thought prompting. There is also, so chain of thought prompting, a level up of chain of thought prompting is another thing called as tree of thought prompting. So it's like how how you have sort of decision tree, and above that you have random forest. Similarly, chain of thought, and above that you have tree of thought. So something like this, different prompting techniques that you should experiment with. So I want you all to Google a couple of prompting techniques, use a lot of examples, and see how your different open source LLMs behave differently. So take the same prompt, take the same example prompts that you have here. Maybe try this prompt on ChatGPT also, and try this prompt on Gemini also. Try this prompt on your Llama also. Try this prompt on, Mistral 7B. Try the same prompt. Okay. Take one prompting technique, for example, one shot prompting. Take the same prompting technique, try it out on ChatGPT versus Gemini versus Llama, and sort of compare how different large language models are comprehending the question and how you're getting different outputs, or are you getting different outputs in the first place? If at all, how do the outputs differ, and which prompting technique behaves well or performs well on which kind of large language model? And I think you can keep experimenting with things like this. So that's it about prompt engineering, guys. Again, thank you for joining the session today. So we'll meet again next week, next weekend, and probably discuss a lot more interesting things. So Thank you. Thank you. Stay tuned in for the next week. Until then, please like, share, and subscribe to 360 Digit MG channel. Thank you.